Session 12, and we now return to 2016 from the previous session's flashback to 1808. Now, so previous session we talked a little bit about 1808 and what was going on then with O Corte Segredo arriving to Rio de Janeiro the first time ever because the Portuguese court was basically in exile from Europe because Napoleon took over the country. So they left. And we talked with a bunch of the Arisen back then, including Cosmot and, of course, O Corte Segredo members as they came to Rio. But we also met some new ones. Including one Amon Ruby, who is a member of the First Merit, the Granite Sphinx, as he's called, who was about to do something terrible, indeed, to everything and everyone in Rio, as apparently Amon Ruby and Bantanath, at least according to Amon Ruby, share some history going all the way back to Carthage, apparently. And we ended on basically them making a sort of peace. Amon Ruby was reluctantly withdrawing his opposition to O Corte Segredo coming to Rio by the end because, well, apparently Bantanath just did not remember. She did not have the answers that Amon Ruby wanted. So, we learned a little about that, and also, part of the reason why Amon Ruby was so insistent on having answers is because he seemed to imply that his daughter is also Arisen and was with them in Carthage, and he would dearly like to know where she is now. But all Bantanath could remember of Carthage was from a different time period, and thus could not help Amon Ruby at all. And so we whisk ourselves back to the current day in our timeline, 2016. The first day of the Rio 2016 Carnival, as it happens. Unless there's something you want to do at the very dark hours of the night before. Of course, Sobek, for your purposes, it's going to take a while to learn the utterance from your guildmaster. So basically, when the carnival is done, you will have mastered the utterance. Blessed is the God King.
Well, obviously, I would like to pay a visit to Husani in the Tiyukan National Park, is it? Where his cult's there.
His cult is there. However, you seem to recall that he's personally not there. He has a different area for his tomb.
He's slightly to the north, isn't he, if I remember correctly? I'm not remembering.
There's let's see.
Like in the mountains or something?
Yeah, the mountains. Which is... It's basically, it's like a day trip outside the city because there's you go a fair distance before you get to some of the less used, less populated mountainous areas. Now, if you want, you could get into contact with him, of course, because you know where his cult is, so you could talk to the cult and see if they can get Husani to be in a different place.
Cracking, yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, so you can have that meeting happen instead somewhere around, if you look at the map, scroll to the left where you see territory of Sakmist in Sidaji de Deus.
Yeah.
We're going to be somewhere around here. This is not extremely high mountains, but this is mountainous area. Not really populated. There's tourist path, hiking paths anyway. There's some stuff there from civilization, but there's a cave tomb there which can be used for this purpose. So you've arranged that,
Splendid.
and yeah. Okay, so we have Khufu pursuing a meeting with his guildmaster Husani, the reviver of dead things. And then we have Sobek. Sobek, what is your plan for the? Let's see. I have a date here. I should the 5th
Mhm.
of February, which is the first date of the carnival. What do you plan to do?
If in between, see my appointments with Bantanath, I imagine we'll split it over a bit of time.
Yeah.
As she's a busy lady, no doubt. Even though technically, I was her senior when she first arrived.
Well, senior in perhaps being in Rio.
Yeah, in Rio, not in the guild terms.
Yeah, in the
but,
guild, it's a different deal.
It's just interesting that now I'm
Yeah.
a student, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
And your current memories, because unfortunately we're going to have to repeat that because John isn't here, but I wanted to highlight that as previously in the first flashback as well, you will retain all that we discuss in the flashback current day.
Okay.
So in 2016, you recall everything that we talked about last session. So
okay, but if we go to sleep, that could be lost.
it can be lost. Everything can be lost if you die.
I will avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
Unlike
And you will fail. Because Sekhem does seep. Now, this is a thing as well. Because it's the Sothic turn, your very last bit of Sekhem will not dissipate on its own. So if you are very proficient, you could string a Sothic awakening out for a long time.
For quite a while.
Yeah. So just to revamp that, John, for your benefit as well. As previously with the Roman flashback, you recall everything that we talked about in the previous flashback in modern days, and just to highlight that because it's a Sothic turn, you will not have your last bit of Sekhem, your very last dot of Sekhem will not dissipate normally across time. So if you manage to hang on to your very last bit of Sekhem, you can prolong your awakening for an indefinite period of time.
Get to use that sweet sugar loaf juicer.
Yeah, if you manage to get it back up again, it will degrade back to 1, but of course. Yeah. So
in terms of what I will be doing in between Speed and Van Life, if I have the time, I'd lead some of the cult members in a prayer in the temple.
Okay, so activating the temple.
We talked about doing that.
We talked about that previously, yeah.
So that's because I don't have any goals currently that takes precedence over that. So that would be
right. So yeah,
nothing's going to go wrong. Nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to go according to what we would like it to go. No interruptions. Going to get some relics. Going to go back down, see the judges. Everything's going to be grand. Just like every Suffolk turn.
Heroes welcome back home in the underworld. It's going to be fine. With trumpets and confetti.
Prepare the second hors d'oeuvres. Thank you.
Oh, don't mind if I do.
I do.
Oh, Ambassador, with the Sekhem, you are really spoiling us.
So you start preparing for the rituals of sort of the inner circle of the cult, because the cult is quite expansive at this point. And basically, it's the Rio office that is the in the know people. So like the headquarters is all cultists, and then everyone outside is more or less in the dark as far as the reality of it.
This is like the inside newsletter. Everyone's in this bit.
Yeah, you can't subscribe to this one. You will get it if you have to get it. So you start preparing for that, and it's a very prosperous time for it because it's the carnival. And I think as Khufu was talking previously, relating to the events at Copacabana some time back, there's probably going to be opportunities to harvest a lot of the energies that are going to go about during the carnival. And it's a good time to do your rituals at the temple because the whole city is sort of like jam-packed with potential at the moment.
Because an energy
So
we can utilize.
yeah, so you start preparing for that in your underground temple tomb complex with your cult as well. So I think that probably means that the cemetery is going to be closed for the carnival then, because you need to not have random people on the premises.
Yeah, it'll be like obviously in respect to the carnival,
Yeah.
so people don't get too much footfall here. We don't want people trampling over here, getting drunk,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
taking
you don't want the
drugs.
tourists like despoiling the area. So
And obviously Khufu is very much, about making
Tell you
sure
what,
these
they'll
people.
know about it if they do.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's good for them.
yeah, it's going to be a very permanent fine if they do.
Yeah, no trespassers, tourists, or alchemists. Thank you.
They get a hard shake, the
No.
alchemists. But that's a lot in life, I suppose.
Yeah,
It's lonely at the top, truly.
it is.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. They sort of embodied that concept, actually. More on that later, perhaps, when we deal with said alchemist,
Foreshadowing.
of which we know only of one currently, and that is Teshra Gemet,
Who seems to be in charge?
who seems to be at the very top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
All right, so I suppose we'll have a sort of montage with the cult, but we're going to jump into Khufu's sort of excursion into where Husani holds sway. And then we may maybe have Khufu join in with the ritual stuff as well, because it's kind of his thing. Right, so yeah, we turn to the mountains, and it's a sunny day, quite humid indeed, and it's entirely free of people. There's no one going to be going about the hills and the sort of mountainous areas when there's the carnival going on in the urban areas. So you've trekked up to the region by yourself. There was a cultist of Husani's who sort of gave you the route, and you've just been trekking through on your own. And you seem to recall the path once you actually find it in the hills. It's something that you've trod previously as well. So you see the familiar landmarks, like the big boulder over there, and the tree is still there from like 200 years back. It's still growing there, and you find your way to a very bare piece of sort of cave wall, which is half covered by shrub. There's a couple of like stunted small trees growing on the rocky ground, and tall hay, and it's a very barely disguised but very effectively disguised entrance. So basically what you do is you part the shrubberies and you sort of push through the shrub, and you get into a very small, you have to bow down to get into the space, but there's a crack in the stone, and you sort of crawl in, not actually on all fours, but you sort of like duck down, and you get into the tomb space, which that is Husani's. It's like an sort of it's like his secondary tomb, I suppose, carved into the wall here. And it's the familiar sense that you seem to recall from across eons, truly. It's herbs, it's incense, it's the sort of like preservative organic resins that you recall from, like I said, like eons ago. You think probably these are scents that you were familiar with in your living life, though you don't remember that. But it's like coming home across the centuries. And it's not a very large space, but still, considering that it's it's all sort of hand carved out of the bare rock. It's a fairly sizable space. It has 3 different sort of alcoves in the wall in which you see corpses in various stages of being ritually used in some way. You see one of them is kind of being mummified, you think, because there's the wrappings and the holy seals on the body. But clearly Husani is doing something, perhaps like research with the corpses, you think, because they're not blatantly just there for burial stuff.
Well, that's fine. That's not something that'll perturb me in any way. After all, it's something I'm quite familiar with, so wanting to experiment with death and sort of study it. So I'll probably actually be quite interested, to be honest.
So you find yourself at one of these alcoves and sort of looking over the work, basically, because it's kind of like a painting, but then it's a death priest and it's a corpse, and you're studying like what's going on here.
Yeah, I'll be trying to sort of work out if, like, via my memories and what I sort of know about death practices, whether I can get sort of like a general idea of like what sort of thing he's up to.
He is this particular one. He seems to be developing some kind of new, quote unquote, mummification process, which it has an element of what seems to you quite unorthodox, in the way that it's not so much meant to prepare the person for the journey into Duat optimally, as was the custom and is the custom still, as far as you're concerned. But this one is mostly seeming to be a method of almost preventing that. So you think, not quite sure, but you think it might be something that he's working on that is a method for keeping a person from going to Duat, from going to the twilight. So basically having the spirit stick to the flesh, or imbue the flesh somehow more potently with the spirit, which that strikes you as unusual. Usually the exact opposite is the purpose of your burial rites, but he's researching something to do with not having the soul leave at all from the flesh. And of course, we're talking about a very different conception of what a soul is as well, because the flesh, the body, is also a part of the soul to an extent, but he's basically aiming to keep the entire person, flesh, soul, everything whole beyond the point of death, which is quite interesting, to be honest. You might find it entirely blasphemous. That is your prerogative, but that's something that you see from this corpse.
I think from my point of view, whether it's blasphemous or not would depend on the eventual aim of it. Obviously, if he was doing it to an arisen, I would say that is indeed blasphemous, because he's like effectively preventing someone from doing the judge's work. However, I think, at risk of like tiptoeing around blasphemy myself, I think when we come to non-arisen, there's certainly a little more leeway. I mean, it doesn't look as though he's like returning them as like deathless, like killing machines, or like sort of soulless creatures. So, and I've dealt with spirits myself. I've bound them to things. So in a way, although I've not done it in the sort of like procedure he's going through, if binding spirits to things was blasphemy, I'd certainly be guilty of it, because I've done it at least a couple of times. Yeah,
I suppose that's a way of looking at it as well. It could be framed as he's trying to make strong enough anchors of the people's own flesh.
Yeah.
That the spirit never actually goes to the twilight at all.
That's certainly how I'd be looking at it, because I know that if I use my abilities, I can basically like grab a spirit and be like, that is now your anchor.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, I have to like call on an utterance to do that with all the attendant complications that can involve. Whereas it looks like he's doing like a more sort of like scientific
Yeah.
method of doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm more interested. I don't see it as being a problem. That's how I'm framing it in my mind.
Yeah.
He's effectively trying to take something that was already important to a spirit, i.e., its body, and just like reinforce it as like a super strong anchor for the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I might not be
So
correct in that, but that's what I'm assuming at the
yeah,
minute.
that's what you can take, and that is entirely within your means to do so. Let's get his a picture. Where
Sorry, I've already got it up, man.
there we go. Yeah, I didn't. I was looking for it, but then it was already there in the correct place. So, Husani, I'll just put it up for Matthew as well. So, Husani's picture is one of these Subaris pictures. So that's his Subaris visage. Um, and of course, from that we know that he has declared the decree of spirit because he has the bird head. But we see from the corner of your vision, Kufu, there's slight movement, and it is Husani. He's moving. He was still as a statue before, which isn't entirely strange to him. He is somewhat, well, you've heard him described, you seem to recall now, looking upon his form, which is in his mortal visage. Husani appears as a short, slightly hunchbacked man in his late 40s. He has like a short, shorn hair and like maybe some stubble, fairly sort of unconcerned seeming to him. And he's dressed in basically like sackcloth, like some worn down linen, maybe. Um, it, he clearly doesn't care what he's wearing, and he has a nervous smile, and Husani never blinks, and he basically like bores into everyone's soul when he's looking at them. But he's sort of like he moves, and we see that he has like a walking stick as he does so. So we hear the sort of like tap tap of the cane as he finally moves towards you, and he has the sort of like slight nervous smile on his face as he always does, and he approaches you with those unblinking death stare eyes, and he says, "It's somewhat of a project of mine. It's not really quite complete. As you can see clearly, the spirit has passed from the flesh." Leaving the flesh behind despite my efforts. It is an ongoing thing, which, given that Sothis has risen, I hope to perfect this time, as we have time for such interests at this point in time.
I bow politely and then I say, if you do not mind me asking, Hasani, reviver of dead things, what is the aim or eventual goal of your experimentation?
He opens his mouth and like draws air in, and then just sort of like lets it out very slowly, and it's like, well, Kufu, I do apologize. It's the first time someone has asked me to explain this. I am trying to recapture some of the old methods that I think I have forgotten from long ago, perhaps even from all the way back in the mortuary temples in lost Irem, bless its memory. I I seem to recall you are also familiar with the art of the awakened thrall.
That is correct.
He nods and so like scratches his cheek a little bit. It is an art I I seem to have set out in an effort to perhaps sharpen it, take it closer to what it perhaps once was. To be entirely honest, a bit at sea here in my interest. Of course, you will remember, and you find that as you talk to him, you do. You've been on the receiving end of his sort of rambly, sort of like outbursts of his sphere of interest, which is the necromantic practices of the Su Menant, the shepherds of the chamber. This isn't the first time, clearly, and he's doing the same thing again. He's saying, "Well, I suppose one of the principal things could be that if we can keep the veil of twilight from parting to a particular person, that could be an echo of the rite of return itself, made manifest. Who knows where this lost knowledge that I am pursuing will end up as. I am, I suppose, in a way, trying to here with this body, this shell. I am trying in my own small, humble way to delve into the past, how we used to do things in Lost Irem.
It is an admirable thing to attempt to prevent the past from being forgotten entirely.
Now, the thing is, and he starts going into theories now, which we will compact here a little bit. Are you forceful in trying to turn him on to other things? Because he will explain to you now in detail about and these are all things you like. It's not news to you. He's talking about familiar topics, but of course his theory is new. So he's talking about the precise positioning of the body as it lays in rest, how it must be positioned so that the spirit is contained the best, and which parts are the ones that you need to pay special attention to when you apply the wrapping and the sacred oils, because those parts are where he thinks the soul slips out from the flesh. And he actually takes apart some of the wrapping to show you that he's experimenting with what seems like tattooing the corpse, putting sort of like sacred writing on the corpse to sort of like patch up these places where he thinks that the flesh has faults, and thus like lets the spirit leave. And he goes into like basically like an impromptu lecture of occult theory for this particular topic.
That's fine. I'm immortal. I'll let him ramble on.
Yeah. So he does that all the while basically staring either at you or the corpse with his unblinking death stare.
That's fine. I don't blink much myself, so
yeah,
it's fine.
Like this would be this, and you know that this is a thing for him as you sort of refresh your memory of him as you interact with him. It's not a problem for you. It is for some other people.
Yeah. So what I'll do is because also we're compressing this.
Yeah.
I'll wait until he gets to one of his like rare pauses, and then I'll say, "This is all very interesting. Forgive me for interrupting."
I thought so myself when I first seemed to begin with this. It must have been a couple of centuries ago now.
Indeed. I've travelled here to consult with you for two main reasons.
Of course. Please. And he motions for like a stone chair that has been sculpted from the wall.
As I'm sitting down, I'll say, well, three reasons if you include my general wish to catch up with you as my guild master. But
of course, I am, as we all, I too live to serve. And he taps his way over to his own like stone chair on the opposite side of the small tomb space.
Very well. The first reason I've travelled to consult with you, ignoring the general niceties, is I have recently had a visit with Sackmist of the Orisha Menet.
Sackmist.
Indeed.
We have yet to speak during this Sothic turn.
Indeed. Well, during my meeting with him, I mentioned that I was planning to consult with you, and he asked me to pass on his good wishes and regards to you, and to say that should you have need of him, he is available at your convenience.
Wonderfully attendant he is. And truly, I mean no ill will, but an apprentice in the arts, so to speak. A lot to learn. Perhaps his focus lies elsewhere.
Perhaps. The second reason I've travelled here to meet with you is I am currently petitioning to join the Menet known as the Orishas.
You can see his face start to sour over the next few seconds as you say that.
That's fine.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Arisen who goes by the name of Ogun, who is now their leader.
It is no doubt one of these images that they have picked up from their cults.
Quite.
What is his proper name?
Osarehi.
Just shakes his head and says, Kufu,
in order for me to officially join their Menet, they have set me 2 tasks. The first is no great trouble to me, since it involves the rescuing of some of Sackmist's servants who have been detained by an organisation known as the Urban Pacification Police. The same organisation has also detained one of my loyal servants, so therefore I was undertaking to do such a thing anyway. The second is of a slightly more delicate nature, and is certainly not something I would consider doing without your say-so. He has asked me to visit, I think it was a particular hovel, wasn't it? He asked me to burn.
There's like a shack village in the forest that he wants you to burn.
There is a small village in the forest which I believe is occupied by your cult.
Yeah, he nods slightly.
In order for me to join the Menet, Agun Osarehi has requested that I burn this village. And I'll sort of hold up a hand if he sort of starts going.
Yeah, he's like what are we even talking about without saying anything?
Of course, given that you are my guild master and I value your counsel, I obviously have no intent of attempting to do such a thing, or indeed rendering any harm to your cult without your permission. What I would like, if you once I've made my suggestion, if you flat out refuse, that will be an end to it. There will be no further attempts from myself. What I would like to suggest is, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the cult belonging to myself and my brother have made a good deal of inroads in protecting people, items and places of historical importance. As with yourself, I have a great fondness for preserving the past and ensuring such things are not lost. What I would like to do, with your permission, is I would like to rebuild, using whatever techniques you deem appropriate, an identical, if you wish, or an improved village for your cult, some small distance away from its original location. I will then have my cult petition the government to grant your cult, who I believe are largely indigenous to this area, protected status along with the new place they now occupy, so they will be free of interference. I will, if you agree, once your cult has moved into the new village, which as I say can be identical or improved as you so wish, I will then burn the old village. Therefore, I will have met my task for the Orishas, your cult will not have been harmed, nor will they be homeless, and with the assistance of my own cult, they may actually have benefited from the transaction. That is my proposal. As I've said, if you are agreeable but have amendments you require, I will of course listen. If you simply refuse, then no more will be said of the matter, and I will not think ill of you for it.
Why do you seek to lie down with the Orishas?
Well, I've recently recalled to mind that myself and my brother Sobek were here in Rio when the Accordo Segredo and the Orishas first arrived here. Since that time, in order to preserve the peace of our land and its people, and to prevent the wanton destruction of items, people of historical import, it has been necessary to monitor them. I have been tasked with monitoring them. My brother monitors the Accordo Segredo. As we are moving into these modern times, our ability to do so would be greatly enhanced by actually being a member of those two menace. Also, much as I may sometimes disagree with their methods, I cannot disagree with their propensity to protect and in some circumstances uplift the poorer and forgotten people of Rio. After all, it is my belief, and it has been since the days of ancient Irem, that all people deserve to have their deeds and their lives remembered, whether they be a mighty pharaoh or the poorest of attendants, and that is unfortunately something which appears to have been forgotten by many people.
This is something you probably are not aware of. I don't believe we discussed the particulars before, but the Orishas, we travel along the same paths to a degree, and it is not once or twice that I have awoken and Amun Ruby and Konsneb Ankh have awoken to find our cults pilfered, shall we say, by the Orishas.
Indeed, it is also my hope that by using my cult to increase the protection around your own, that such things may be lessened in the future. Since, as a member of their menant, if I make it clear that the historical status of your cult and the area in which they would then be living is reinforced by my own, then technically by their own rules, any attack on your cult would also be seen as an aggressive move against my own. And as a full member of their menant, I would then be able to deal with that in an appropriate fashion. Whereas at the moment, I'm an outsider. I have very little say amongst them. And also, not to put too fine a point on it, since you are having issues with them, if you do have issues with the Orishas in future, it is far easier for me to moderate their behaviour from inside, rather than as an outsider looking in.
In the past, such moderation has come in the form of stern rebuke, as I recall.
Indeed, the issue with the stern, I'm sure that may have worked once upon a time, but the issue with sternly rebuking the Orishas is that they are a menant who define themselves by opposition to the establishment, if you want to call it that. Therefore, simply rebuking them reinforces their notion that they are the persecuted party fighting against a monolithic establishment. All it does is strengthen their beliefs and cause them to come back with more aggression afterwards once they have regrouped. It may delay them for a time, but it is not a permanent solution. And I have remained neutral up until this point, because I also believe that the rebukes may work, but that has not proven to be the case. I believe that by joining their membership and acting to moderate their worst impulses from the inside, it may have a more long-term effect than simply rebuking them whenever their behaviour gets out of hand.
We are turning a new leaf, you say. We are taking a new scroll and starting a new chapter in this.
Indeed.
Is your intent.
After all, we obviously both value the past and traditions, but what is the point of these traditions if you do not learn from them in some way? After all, if we find a tradition that causes issue, or that a method of practice that does not work, do we not try and improve our knowledge, as you are doing with your experimentations here? You are attempting, of course, to recapture the essence of something you believe may have forgotten, but are you not trying things from a new viewpoint now? Are you not trying new things and seeking to improve upon what might be the ancient traditions? My wish is to find a way to moderate the Orishas and perhaps focus them more on their protection of the local populaces, which obviously, given that your cult is mostly indigenous people, would be included in that. And I believe if they can be focused on that and made to see themselves less as persecuted warriors fighting against the establishment, it may have a more long-term effect on their behaviour as a whole, rather than simply slapping them on the wrist, if you'll forgive the colloquialism, when they get out of hand. I may be wrong, but it is clear that I would rather attempt something new and have it fail than continue with the old ways, which have been proven not to work.
I think part of the reason why, of course, for my own self, it is a rare person, arisen or not, who lays their true notions out plainly, as you do, Khufu.
I have no facility for deception. It has always been a failing of mine.
It is not a failure. It is a strength, a waning strength in this unfortunate time that we find ourselves in. But I believe that, of course, I do appreciate your contribution as always, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why Amun Ruby has always been quite taken with you when you have been about, so to say. Not of course in recent times.
Indeed.
And
my
you do remember
him,
that.
I'll say my memories of him are vague, but I do recall Amun Ruby and speaking to him on occasion.
Yeah. When he says in recent times, there's a vague idea in your head that he probably means like a couple hundred years at least.
Yeah.
So maybe not in recent times, but
you see, it is my belief that the reason Agunwil or Osarehe wields so much power within the Orishas is that he continually stirs them up, so that every time they are rebuked for their behaviour, he is able to point to that as evidence that he was right and that the establishment is attempting to oppress them. And this, as you're aware, many of, such as Sakmist, who we mentioned, many of the Orishas are straightforward in their attitudes to be charitable. So it is possible for him to stir them up into violence and even greater acts of greater problematic acts, I believe, and no one seems willing to challenge him on this, whereas I believe that if it were possible to integrate the Orishas more fully into Arisen society as a whole, then Osorehe would not be able to rally people to his cries of oppression by the establishment, and that naturally his agitation would wane and the Orishas would be more manageable, let's say.
You have said a great number of things, from the construction of new edifices to the protection from various different spheres, including your personal influence, which could be lent to my followers. And you have spoken of matters which I presume relate to mortal government as well. You
Indeed.
have spoken of curtailing the snake in the grass that is Osorehe and his fellow thieves in the night. Khufu, where does the power come that allows you to do this? Do you have such power?
The power that I could possibly lend to your cult and the reconstruction would come from the cult of myself and my brother that we have. We have cultivated them over the many years, and they have quite some influence in the areas of preservation, mortal legalities and such alike. So that is where that comes from. In terms of opposing the governmental body that has imprisoned Sakmis servants and my own, there I fear I must fall on slightly cruder tactics, and that will come from my own abilities. In terms of where the power comes from to influence the Orishas, it is less a power and more of a simple hope. I have seen from my dealings with Sakmist recently where I was able to peacefully negotiate a confrontation between him and one of his enemies without it resulting to bloodshed or outright violence, when he already had his enemy at his feet. And I was able to negotiate with Sakmist to arrange the return of his enemy to their own cult. So and also Sakmist wishing to pass his regards on to yourself. Sakmist is seen as one of the most straightforward and violent members of the Orisha, and yet even he has other facets to his being. It is my belief that most of the other Orishas will likewise have other elements to their being. However, at the moment, because they are riled up and they believe they are being kept down, the only aspects of them that other Arisen see is the violent, crude aspect of them. I feel that if they could be moderated and brought more fully into Arisen society, then both they and we would benefit from their inclusion. After all, we are immortal, we are all sharing this land. It would behoove us all to work for the good of Arisen society as a whole. But the Orishas will not do that whilst they believe they are sat outside that society.
There are very few who would work towards this goal. I find myself not in opposition to your proposal, though I weep for your insistence in associating yourself with the Orishas. But then Sakmist is already there. So perhaps you shall keep each other on the path.
Indeed, and if it is my belief, as I've said, that if there is one amongst the Orishas who I feel has already benefited from having a slightly calmer voice to discuss things and would likely benefit from it in the future, perhaps there may be more. But how can they currently rely on a calmer voice when the only voice that leads them is the one that exalts them to violence and action against the rest of Arisen society? If you are, to use a crude analogy, if you are constantly given nothing but hammers, eventually every problem will look like a nail.
He blinks actually, and have you been discussing with Hamset, or you do sound like a proper builder of things just now.
I'm not a great builder in terms of physically building things. However, as I've said, ever since the most ancient days that I can remember, it has been my wish that things should not be needlessly destroyed, and that what is worthy should be preserved, in the same way as we did with ancient carvings on the tomb in days of old. And this goes for menace, societies, people, and it is my belief that there is something worth preserving within the Orishas, and I would not see them needlessly self-destruct simply because of Osarehe's actions. Not if I could prevent it, anyway.
Just as long as you're aware that none of them deserve any of what you intend to give them, whether they want it or not.
It is not a matter of, from my view, it is not a matter of whether they deserve it or not. It is my belief that everyone deserves to have their deeds remembered. Everyone deserves to be, even mortals, fleeting as they are, deserve to have their deeds remembered. The cult of myself and my brother has worked to preserve burial places of historical importance, because we believe that these are the legacies that mortals leave behind them, even though their lives may be short. Therefore, I think if we are capable of preserving the best of them, it will be a crime to turn our faces away from other members of our own kind simply because their immediate actions do not appeal to us. It would be wrong for me to turn my face away without at first trying to reach a hand out to them and see if they can be helped and brought into the light, so to speak. It may be an impossible task. It may be that I will suffer for it, but if I do, at least I will know that I have made the attempt.
Well, if you are able to do these things that you have spoken of today, you have grown mighty indeed, and I have no doubt that you will find whatever it is that you need to bring the Orishas to heal, I suppose. I would not object to having your assistance in matters of cultic nature. So, what is the time that we are supposed to start this scheme of yours?
It would be out to your convenience. To lay it out simply, the steps as I see them would be as follows. To explain the matter to your cult in so much as you see fit. It would then be to arrange the construction of the new village. Your cultists would be invited to submit ideas about what form they want this village to take. As I say, if they wish it to be a simple replica of their previous one, it can be. If they wish improvements, they can be made. Also, if you wished any particulars in the building process, that could be arranged. I would then have my cult and their considerable legal influence petition the government to apply a protected status to the indigenous people who dwelled in the new village and the area around it. And I would make it known through various channels that the organisation that forms the public face of our cult was involved in that.
Well, as you have this entire endeavor planned out, I shall prepare.
Do you have a means of contacting me when your cult are informed, or would you prefer that I returned after a certain point?
You have an address for where your servants are?
Yes, of course, and I'll basically give him the address of like the cult building, like the main mailbox or whatever.
I will send word when I have presented your vision. We will move from there according to your instruction.
Very well. I will go back and begin making preparations with my own cult, so that once we receive word from you, we can set the wheels in motion.
Very good. Also, Matthew, by the way, I can see that you're not in Roll20 anymore. And I also noted that there was a connection thing going on in Roll20, so maybe there was a hiccup, but just to mention.
I just had that pop up on mine as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, it might be... Yeah, you're muted. You're still muted?
All right, yeah.
Double muted?
I double muted myself. Okay.
Yeah,
Roll20's throwing a spanner around.
But just to mention that, and yeah, so
so I was going to say, basically, to try and compress it again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bid a fond farewell to Hassani.
He has something to say to you before you go. So says, our discussion today has resurfaced some of my impressions of you, Khufu, and from how you speak now, I suppose you would still continue to lean towards the more, I suppose, contemporary approach to the duties of the shepherds, to exist with the mortals as they are currently. Blatantly, that is true, even without your confirming it, as you lay claim, according to your words, to a mighty group of servants indeed, which, of course, cannot be done without being able to relate to them, being with them today, here,
Indeed,
now.
You are correct. It is, as I've said, it is my belief that the deeds of mortals likewise deserve to be preserved, and it is only possible to know those deeds in order to preserve them by associating with mortals.
Khufu, I
understanding them to a degree,
which is the important part, I would say, in that they are, after all, if you care about such things, they are the charges that we are to look after in the absence of the Shaniatu of Lost Irem, and, well, on behalf of the judges.
Indeed, I find it difficult to envision not at least having some regard for them, because after all, before the ancient rite was performed on us, were we not like them ourselves?
But truly, we once were such as they are now.
Indeed.
Not burdened with existence as it currently is, but still, we are the children of Sekhem, or were rather, much as they are.
Indeed, we were once mortal before being found worthy to be gifted with our current existence by the judges, and I cannot say for sure, but who is to say that in some vastly unfathomable reach of the future that more mortals may be worthy of some future apotheosis that I cannot fathom at present.
You can see that the word there definitely strikes a chord with him, but he buries it very quickly, and he says, Khufu, I may need to call upon you in the future. I do not know exactly when, but I have been in communication with others in different places of the shepherds, and it is at this point in time, as he's hinting, like, oh, probably, outside of Rio, maybe, because it would make sense that he would address people by name if they were in Rio.
Yeah.
You now remember that he has told you, in, of course, guild confidence, he has actually made a point of it to say to you that don't talk about this outside the guild, right? The priests. You now remember that he is a holder of a title called First Prophet of South America, which means he is the #1 Sumenant in South America. The whole continent is his responsibility. There's always 7 of these in the world, and only 7, never any less. And he's one of them. He's one of the top 7 Sumenant in the world.
At which point, obviously, like, because he's not directly just told me that, I've just like remembered it.
Yeah, you just now remembered because he's like, oh, I'm talking to people from all the places.
So I'll say in a very sort of quiet voice, I'll say, well, if you have my contact details, First Prophet, if you should...
like makes a motion for you to
that's why
stop it.
That's why I like lowered my voice down a bit. But I'm like, should you have need of me, please do not hesitate to contact me. I'm at your disposal.
It might require travel.
That is fine. I have travelled before.
Khufu, it is the time of the sharpest star, as we know. And with this, we are once again, as a guild, faced with a time where all of us tread upon the face of Keb, which you know to be the sort of like personalized, like personified Earth in Eremite mythology, basically the ground. And we all tread upon the face of Keb at the same time. And it is always a time of great import, great potential as well. But it's also a time of potential crisis, and I would actually say just crisis in and of itself. There will be a conclave called soon. I do not know exactly when. The guild will gather. I do not know how many of us, how many of the people in my position, and as he addresses the fact that he is a first prophet, you do recall that he has never, like, first of all, he never mentions it if possible, but he also, like, it feels extremely awkward to him to talk about that to begin with. I do not know how many of those in my position are going to be in attendance, but what will happen is this conclave will be called, and I do know where it will be called as well. It is going to be called to the great distance in the north, in a place called Washington. It is a city in the Northern American continent. I'm not sure if you're familiar. No doubt your mighty servants will be able to tell you all the details. I had to talk to several to understand this, but there's a city of some import, and we will call the conclave in Washington. I believe they call it DC. I'm not sure of the meaning of this.
I will
gather.
read up on the matter when I return.
You should definitely. It is a new city. I do not remember it from the past, but in any case, it will be a momentous occasion, because never before have we gathered in such numbers as I think will be there at that time.
I am, of course, Hassani, happy to attend. I would ask one question though, as I'm sure you may recall. I am often joined, obviously, in this time of the Sothic wheel turning, by my brother Sobek.
Yes, the Sobek, the scrivener, isn't he?
Correct. Whilst I'm unclear at the minute if this conclave is to be secretive, I would not wish to break any protocol by mentioning to my brother why I need to disappear to Washington for a time. But if it is permissible for me to say to him that I am travelling there on guild business, would that be acceptable?
You can, if you are asking, can you bring him with you? As I seem to recall, you are quite inseparable.
Indeed.
Which is of some interest to those among us who study such things. Have you paid attention to Khufu? And you can sense him drifting.
Yeah, I was like, he's going back into lecture mode. I can feel it.
Have you paid attention to the particulars of the constellations when you both are arisen? There seems to... I certainly would point to great portents as those that arise with some regularity at the same time. Surely there are things of hidden nature between you and Sobek, other than your whatever familial bonds you might share, but the stars and the currents of Duat, I think, probably play quite closely upon your fates here. Khufu, have you studied this phenomenon?
I must confess that if I have studied such, I do not recall it at present, but it is possible I may have done.
I would suggest, as it is an opportune time during the time of the sharpest star, this is very good, Khufu, if you choose to delve into this matter.
I most certainly will do, thank you. As for our bond, you're correct, it is partly familial. It is partly familial, but as it has also been forged through experience throughout the ages. After all, once you've carried someone's bruised and almost lifeless body through the cannibal fields of Britannia, it is difficult for such experiences not to form a bond between you.
He just nods, not really knowing what to comment on. Yes, Khufu, you can definitely take your brother if you want. There will be other envoys. Highly likely that there will be, for we are after all the shepherds, not only of the chamber but of the Arisen as well. However deprived that position is in these times. But Khufu, the conclave will be to settle many things. We have not had the opportunity, Khufu, to discuss matters of our duties, of the doctrine we serve and promote. These are all things that we will discuss, as it is not a blasphemy, as you agree, no doubt, Khufu, to speak the truth.
No, it is not a blasphemy.
It is our duty, I would say.
I would agree.
The chamber is divided, and I fear it may collapse even. And what are the shepherds to do when that happens is something that we need to ascertain. There are many Khufu who across the centuries have had great doubts, great trouble with their duty. The heaviest weight among all the guilds has been placed upon us, for only we know the secrets of the shell of death as such, and life as well. And our burden, Khufu, has been too heavy on some across the centuries. And we need to gather now as a group, as a guild, to ascertain what we are in this time. Witness, they put upon me the title of first prophet, yet here I am. This is a humble chamber where I practice my craft. I give you wisdom, you approach me as your guild master. I try to serve you as best as I can. Give whatever wisdom I can whenever you approach. Same with Sockmist. Bless his limited vision. He also comes up the steps for wisdom.
Speaking of Sackmister, obviously I do not know whether he will be attending the conclave.
I doubt we will.
Would you object to me extending an invitation to him?
If that is something you wish to do, that is something I cannot forbid you from doing.
As I've said, it is my belief that, buried though it may be, there is more to this Arisen than the face he presents to the outside world. As you say, he is yet an apprentice, he has much to learn, but it is my belief that if he could be made to feel that learning such things was desirable and that the way was open for him to do so, that he may surprise us in the future.
You have inadvertently come back upon the topic I was intending to comment upon, which is, you are entirely correct, Khufu. One of the hopes that I have for the conclave is that we would have an idea of how to be desirable.
Indeed.
I am, by the will of other chambers, other shepherds of the chamber than myself, by their will, I am first prophet. And he kind of cringes saying that. And I do what I can. But witness, our own brother shepherd, interested in what? Petty crime of the flesh. He spends his days fighting the even greater degenerates, and I have no trouble with you taking my words to them, of Ocorte Segredo, who while away eternity not with crimes of the flesh but pleasures of the flesh, and look upon the city that we stand over here on this high hill. Do
Indeed.
you see temples to Azar? Do you see funerary temples which prepare the people with the necessary things for their journey to Duat's dark caves?
Indeed, it is rare but not unknown. The cult of myself and Sobek has preserved as much of the ancient ways for our inner circle as it is appropriate to do so. But it is my belief, since Sobek will be attempting to ingratiate himself with the Accordo Sagredo, as I've said at the start, it is our belief that by perhaps opening some doors to these two different menates, and we have already had some success in negotiating between the two factions, which more than a few years ago would have probably been unthinkable. It is our hope that if we can get to a stage where both menates, if they are not exactly friendly with each other, they can at least not be as antagonistic and sort of bent on a course of mutual destruction. Since if an Arisen, in my opinion, if an Arisen dies, no matter how I personally feel about that Arisen, I feel that we are, and I speak of course of permanent death, much as I know that is a very difficult thing and does not happen often to us. I believe that as a people as a whole, we are diminished by that loss.
I would like for you to go to the conclave, Khufu, because you have these thoughts.
Indeed, the that you mentioned earlier, Aman Ruby. The last time I recall speaking to him, it would have been early 1800s, from what I remember, just not long after the Accord to Sagredo and the Orishas arrived in Rio. He was bent on delivering harm to one of the recently arrived Arisen over some barely remembered feud or slight that had occurred perhaps hundreds of years, thousands of years before.
Yep. He nods and he says, Carthage. Yes.
Indeed.
I know of this.
Luckily, myself and my brother were there, and we were able to reach through that fog of anger with our words and persuade him to stay his hand. Unfortunately, he then chose to fall into slumber shortly afterwards. I would have preferred that he continued on and was able to contribute to Arisen society, but at least Arisen was not pitched against Arisen. So I believe it is certainly possible to negotiate between the antagonistic factions of our own kind. And I think, as you have said, we need to find a way of making our guild appealing, to use those words. Would it not be better for us to be known as diplomatic peacemakers than people on the fringe of society or people who interfere?
Khufu, I will put that mantle upon you, should you be so inclined. Let's see what the conclave brings, and
Indeed.
if it comes to be that you are sent there as my envoy without my own presence, is that acceptable to you?
It is acceptable to me, and if you bestowed such an honour on me, then I would of course endeavour to perform to the best of my abilities.
And I have no doubt about this. Well, I think you probably have great work ahead of you, given
Indeed.
the incredible things you have discussed here today. and there is a particular species of bird that I have just acquired, which I greatly desire to start working on.
Well, then I shall keep you from your work no longer. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. As I have said, I will return to my cult and begin making arrangements, and we will await your word.
I will send word as soon as we have discussed things with my servants.
Be well then, Guildmaster. And I'll tell my leave.
Right.
And yeah, as I've said, my basic plan is like go back to the cult, obviously read up on like Wikipedia about Washington DC via one of the cultists, and then basically say to the cult like, right, there's an old village, we're going to demolish it. There's a settlement of like indigenous people. We're going to build them a nice new village. We're going to be getting specs shortly, a short distance away, and I want us to like put all of our legal department behind getting them protected status for their village as like a historical monument, because we'll be building it sort of like in the indigenous style. So I'll basically start getting everything ready so we can like roll forward on that as soon as we get the word from Husani.
Right. Okay. Good. You're double muted again, Matthew, I think.
Sorry, I was yawning there because I'm a tired boy. But yeah.
Yeah, and you have to listen to like Professor Death here.
No, I was laughing. I was trying not to laugh because this is like the wilderness arisen out there doing his experiments. He's a bit absent. He's telling his stories, whereas mine was like political intrigue and to teach you some shit.
So unfortunately, like Johannes has preyed on like my one weakness. It's like, here's an NPC who wants to talk to you.
Yeah, which is
like, I can do that all day.
Yeah, which it's a very sort of for this particular setting as well. There's a number of things which converge there, which you probably picked up on quite a bit because I was trying to underline some stuff there as well. Husani don't have a lot of friends.
Yeah,
he wasn't what I was expecting from your guildmaster.
Well, basically, my hopes are like, obviously I've got him with Husani. He's like, oh, I might send you as my envoy to this like conclave. I'm like quids in with the guild. Then he's like, oh yeah, Sackmist's good as an apprentice. So I'm like, all right, if I bring Sackmist along with us, get a bit in with him. That's like another ally amongst the Orishas. And if he can start getting like his necromancy on and like learning a bit more, that's potentially like someone who can like back whatever plays we make in the future. And also, obviously, it seems to me, and I may be wrong, the main reason, as has been stated, why Agun sort of became the like figurehead of the Orishas, because he wasn't originally, is because he was like, I'm powerful AF.
Yeah,
like, you need some of this to like make your Menet go. So if as far as I'm concerned, if I can raise up all the other Orishas to the point where they're like, do you know what? We don't actually need to like lean on a gun. So like the next time when he comes up and he's like, yeah, we've got to fight the man, they're keeping us down, let's ride in the streets, they might just be like, why do we need to? Like everyone else is being like perfectly nice to us. We're actually getting things done without having to riot. And it's like, from my character's point of view, it's like we're immortal. It's virtually impossible to kill us permanently. What have we got?
As far as we know.
Yeah, as far as we know, what have we got to lose by at least trying to talk before we start pummeling each other? And then like one of us maybe gets killed temporarily, wake up again, rinse and repeat. At some point, you're gonna have to sit down and talk, because like all beating each other up's doing is like putting it off till the next turn of the wheel, which doesn't accomplish anything.
I feel like you've got a tougher like path than I have at the moment, because I think that some of those risen skulls are pretty thick. I think you may struggle a little bit.
See, I actually think you've got the tougher path than me, because the thing about the Orishas is
politics, man.
The thing about the Orishas though is like, I'm not saying they're going to be like an easy nut to crack, but they are straightforward. They're like, oh yeah, like fight against.
Are the most honest bunch of Arisen I've ever met.
Rubbish.
The ones that I've met.
The Orishas are all like, oh, the man's keeping us down. We've got to like fight for our right to party and whatever. And we're going to like burn everything down. Obviously, that can be horrendously violent and disruptive. but it's a straightforward motivation. It's not like a complex political like interweaving of various things. So it might be a tough nut to crack, but once you've got a crack in it, you can then just keep pressing that home. Whereas I think
you forget that I have all the divine contact lenses.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think with you, because like I don't believe you've got like a divine sight that allows you to like see political machinations. So
next level. Next.
I think your problem's going to be is there's going to be like wheels within wheels and little plots and stuff going on. I mean, it's called the secret court. So like you're
branding.
So basically, what we're looking at is like I've got like a rock that I've got to break with the erasures, and it's like even if I've only got a little hammer, if you just keep hitting it, eventually you'll make a crack, and then you can just keep going. Whereas you've got like a complex tapestry that you've got to sort of like move, but like you can't pull on any of the threads too much, or the whole thing's going to unravel. So I think yours is going to be a lot more difficult than mine.
I see it more as a web. The spider's there, but I just can't see it yet.
See, that's why I think it's going to be more difficult for you, because you're going to have to tread more softly, and you're going to have to get involved with all this like
that's
politicking.
Why that's why you're gonna help me out, because you're going to be like, that's definitely a bad dude over there.
Well, yeah, obviously I can tell you that, but you forget I am also like Mr. Truth. Like I don't have any like faculty for like political machinations or like underhand dealings. It's like, I'm very straightforward. I just be like, no, that's a rubbish idea. You're just trying to like do this to
Does
get
my
this.
character know of any time you've told a lie?
Maybe we'll find out when we get on.
At least, at least not currently in the available span of memory. Currently, I don't think there is such a thing.
Right. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm basically getting everything prepped. So I don't know if you want to jump over to Matthew, because I'm aware I've been talking for a long time.
I was very tempted to change my title to "Yo, it's your boy, subscribe."
It's your boy Scrivener.
I like how they reference me as that guy.
That guy, the Scrivener.
Right.
But yeah,
the one with the scribblings.
Like I say, if you want to jump over to Matthew, feel free, because I'm aware I've been nattering for ages.
My quill collection is quite exquisite, I'll have you know.
I have some nice font if you would like to take them. I got them from Google.
Yeah, so as a reminder, I was hanging out with Bantanath, catching up on things. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff going on that I'm not aware of. I'm sure to tell me, and doing a bit of training for this new utterance. I'm guessing it's like the actual how to form the word correctly and that kind of thing. And
and truly, it's more than just the like speaking the thing, because as I think I mentioned before, you don't need to be able to talk to use your utterances, because what your mouth cannot speak, your soul will.
It's imbibing what it means.
Yeah, it's a higher art than like base speaking.
But I'm all about the word, yo. All about that word.
It's kind of your thing. But the thing there is as well, the word that you are all about is the written one.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not the spoken one. Not to say that those aren't interlinked, they very much are, but it is very specifically your guild's thing to put things down as writing. Not to give speeches.
That's certainly taken off in the last few hundred years.
Yeah, it sure has. And we did mention briefly, as you were being shown the internet, basically, that they've done some shit since you were last awake.
Mortals, they got some ideas.
Yeah.
I'll be leading a temple prayer. I don't think I need my brother there to do it, actually.
No, you don't. You don't. No. But yeah, so if you want to, you can have the ceremony in the temple.
Yeah.
And what that means is you have now like reinvigorated the temple, its mystical essence, which in turn allows you to have one extra dot of Ka while inside the temple. So inside your like tomb temple complex, you have one extra dot of Ka, up to 5, of course, because your temple is dedicated particularly to essence, which is embodied in the unknown bull, which nameless bull, which has a name, because all of them do. It's just like basically it's a word that references the the deity in question, but it's called Ptah,
Yeah.
the deity, but it's
I
the
like the temple
unnamed.
is almost like a conjoining of our two pillars, because we're very
Mhm.
different in our guild and our defining pillar. But this is neither of those things.
Mhm.
This is something. This is one of the others. So it's like almost like a cross pollination
Yeah.
of our two.
The nature of essence is kind of like something that is innately true. Like that's the sort of like point around which essence revolves around. Um, it's
Obviously, that
it's kind
relates to
of
what else.
like taking something. This would be more applicable to you if you were of the bull-headed decree of essence, but you're not. But the way that works is they've picked something about themselves, and when in their tribulations they were asked to make a decree, they made the decree of essence, saying that I am this thing forever.
This is the truth.
This part is the thing that I am of me,
Hmm.
and that's sort of the essence of essence in this context. So like something about innate truth is imbued into your temple's construction, which allows you to have more ka while inside.
Do I need to make a
So
roll for this? I can't remember if I
I
do.
don't believe you do, not necessarily, because
Just activate.
it's not really about that. It's about doing the thing. And I'm gonna say it takes you most of the day as well, according to your rituals and your
Yeah. I mean,
schedule.
my brother's been gone a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, it's been a while, and you've practiced as well. Um, and in the interest of symmetry, let's say that takes up the day. You have now activated the temple, which gives you the ka, but it also gives you, I believe, your cult has one more of each stat while operating within like the sort of area of your tomb temple. So if your cult does anything related to being close to where your temple is, they get more stats.
Mm.
So they're going to be like shit hot in the favela because your tomb is next to the favela. So they can do some shit more efficiently.
And importantly, this could be very useful if any. Obviously, the festival, I'm sure it's going to go off without a hitch.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing could possibly go
Mm-hmm.
wrong. But if anything involving our temple, something comes at us during this festival, then
Mm-hmm.
we're primed.
Yeah, definitely. You are in a great position to defend as well. Now, if anything kicks off, there's
I've had my official robes on.
yep,
Everyone's got their own uniform.
yep. So you have led them in a very traditional, long form ceremony of worship and dedication to the judges of Duat, and in particular your own judges. Uh,
Oh yeah, my guy's going to get full on.
mhm.
Mm.
Yep. So we have Chesertep and what was yours? Usak Nemtet, was it? It's
Well,
on the first page of
I'm
your.
looking right at it, but I'm not sure I can pronounce it properly.
Oh, okay, let
Uach
me.
Racket, yeah,
Watch Reket. Okay, yeah, the rectifier. Yeah, yeah.
the rectifier.
So these two judges get special attention, but truly it is in service of them all.
All of them. Well, they're all equal, as far as I
There
know.
there there might be some hierarchy. You're not sure
Yeah,
though. Like there's
as
no
far as I
clear
know.
like, oh, this is the king of the judges. Well, you know who the king of the judges is
As
actually.
he says in the book. He
Mm.
says. Sorry, he said. Um, we know of a judge that is referred to as the king of the judges.
No, it's not a judge. It's Azar, the god of the underworld, which was
Oh,
the chief god of Iram.
big cheese.
Your cosmology kind of has the judges here, and then Azar is the king of the underworld.
The High King, essentially.
Yeah, he's the highest deity of Iram. But the judges aren't gods. The gods are a separate class of entity entirely.
Yeah.
and I think there's probably quite a bit of cosmological like weirdness there that you're
I
not
feel like I used to
quite
remember, but that
clear.
was another life. Long ago.
But the judges are kind of the highest class of entity you're aware of, and of course the focus of all the things in Aram as well. So you lead them through the worship rites, and well, you have now given these people their first actual religious experience given by the Arisen, and not their high priestess.
And it feels good to have been able to have the time to honor the judges in such a way and the practices of Aram, because a lot of the time we wake up and something is in motion. You know, there's something that needs our attention straight away, so it's good in a Sothic turn to do this.
And I think you will indeed feel the approval of Uashreket, because your descent clock will reset again.
Ooh.
So you're back to square one at your current level again,
It's
because
just like
you're doing
get a thumbs up from the underworld.
Yeah, thumbs up from the underworld in a way that you are. Well, it's not very definable, and this is a part of your background, of Irem, the culture, some other bits as well, which we're not going to talk about. But the fact that when you do good, when you make the cult worship the judges, you get this like vague sense of like that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's very wisely. Like it's not like an elation. Like you don't feel like someone going in the underworld like yes, like there's none of that. You just get the like slightest
the giant
of like
foam finger just coming out going.
Yeah, you get the slightest of like good work. And when you do wrong, it's like the judges were peeling your skin off the back of your back with rusted knives.
You know, because I'm kind of a little bit concerned because judges never forget, unlike me. So the whole like destroying that relic not that long ago.
Yeah.
That wasn't cool.
That wasn't cool.
That wasn't cool.
That wasn't cool.
that could go bad.
Yeah. So yeah, it's entirely the experience that you recall having anytime you feel anything in relation to the judges. The approval is always like, yeah. And if you do wrong, it's always the fucking whip, the scourge, the flaying knives, and the whole fucking armory of pain. So yeah, that's your experience with the judges and how they communicate with you, because they don't otherwise. And that this is the way by which you and every other Arisen navigates the desires of the judges. You go until you start hurting, and then you go back and you try and figure out why, and then you try to do something else.
Hopefully they're not mad at me. Well, that's good. I've been reset.
Yeah, you're reset back at 7 as well. So currently Khufu is a little bit ahead, like a couple of days at least ahead of schedule. But at 7th level, 7th Sechem dot, you do have already the time period between potential decreases is getting somewhat lengthy at this point.
My Sechem's slightly high because I got the Sugarloaf Mountain thing.
Yeah, that was a reset as well. You didn't manage to retain the Sechem, but you got a reset out of that. So you're again, you are reset. So you're back at the top of 7. Khufu's a little bit more down. Right. So that was a lot of sort of housekeeping, I suppose, but and we've talked a lot about Khufu's specific stuff. Now, Sobek, is there something you particularly want to get to? I have some notes here, but if I'm conscious of the time as well, but we can do a bit with you as well because we spent so much on Khufu. Is there a thing you want to pursue on, let's say, the second day, just for moving things on? Second day of
I didn't have a lot on the docket.
Yeah, what I have from you is the utterance, of course. The Amkat. Like, if there's anything about the greater Amkat.
If there's something that's came in about that, because I sent out a bunch of feelers. So it was Amkat. It was I think you know what it is, because I feel guilty about destroying that relic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm scraping my memory. See what I'm doing? I'm shooting
Mm-hmm.
defining a relic of worthy recompense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about that one from Rome that we lost.
Yep.
There's that one when the court first came to
Mm-hmm.
Rio.
Yep.
From that scribe, it was a scribe one. You see, stuck in my mind. That's
Yeah, it
brilliant.
was a text that the Heartless was carrying.
So I haven't really spoken to my cult about that, but it's kind of been on my mind. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's any news about that one from Rome,
Yeah. On that, I do have a note for you. You asked your cult to look for the golden casket thing that you described to them.
yes,
They've come back with nothing. It's just like they come back with,
brilliant.
these are the golden caskets that we found.
Yeah,
But it's
nothing.
they have nothing with that particular thing in mind.
It's no surprise, but
Yeah,
slight
it's
disappointment.
for at least for that particular search, it seems to have completely avoided your cult's attentions. But now, if this is the thing about Arisen existence, you are kind of fated, like capital F, to deal with relics because you share the same nature. You're both powered by Sekhem. And if the relic exists, it can't possibly avoid attention forever. But
unless another Arisen
unless it's already in Duat, that's
there's
the
no
key.
way for me to know that.
Yeah, or destroyed. But there is actually there is, and this is that's good. Now you remember. Oh yeah, right. Because we haven't really talked about that a lot. We have referenced it previously, but you can use the Scarab's path, the Sun Scarab's path, called Kefir, which is your method of tracking relics if you are aware of them, and particularly your own guild. So what you can do is you can basically reach out with your Sekhem into the world. Doesn't matter where it is. You can sort of send out your Sekhem ping as a sonar, and you can make a roll, and you will potentially figure out where a particular relic is. Now, your chances of doing that depend entirely on what the circumstances are, how well you know the relic, and what your information about it is.
Okay.
But you can do that. You can send out right now.
I am totally 100% gonna do that.
You can.
Right?
Well, that's for your own relics, by the way. So, for example, the book that you saw with the Heartless, you can do that. We don't know what the relic inside the casket is.
Yeah, that's why I was getting. It could be a scribe relic. I don't know that. Ah. I mean, I could have just looked in and found out.
Let's see. I'm gonna
Even
pull
though
up
it had like massive letters on it, "Do not open."
Yeah, the tomb was laden with warnings like "Don't open the casket."
It's a mystery that has to be solved, though. That is very important.
Okay, here we go. I'm looking up the Kefir. Here we go. Okay. So, so in the craft houses of Irem, the ancient guilds practiced mystic rites along with material skills. The priests of Duat gave magical vessels their powers, but not until they were ready to receive necromantic spells. Artisans inscribed sigils, read omens in the stars, water, and bloody entrails, and performed the appropriate sacrifices. They learned to sense when a vessel was ready for the master's sorcery. And through the rite of return, the Shaniatu strengthened these senses. The Arisen sense these familiar forces to a greater degree than they ever did in life, even if they've forgotten their guild's inner mysteries. An Arisen senses vessels that belong to his guild's signature domain, even if they lay hidden on the other side of the world. Mummies can even sense the occult sympathies vessels build up over ages. The example here is an alchemist smells regium, which is their own type of vessels, on the hands of a woman who held it. So this is another thing as well. You can use proxies. If you have a person who has once held a text, you can sense the text through the person. Okay, so you're capable of sensing vestiges, which are the emotion-laden things, which we have the basketball and the car. And if you want to find relics, you need to, this is the thing that I want to confirm. So you need to be of the guild to search for that particular kind of relic. So I guess what you can do is you can try to find the relic in the golden box that you saw 2,000 years ago.
Yes. How? So if it's not of my guild, then Khufu can
Then
do the
you
same
cannot,
thing.
the path doesn't go there. Then
Yeah,
you cannot find it.
But then I could ask Khufu to do it because he's seen it, and that would at least close off it being a...
Yeah, either of yours.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Do you use Kefir to try and find the relic in the golden box that you saw 2,000 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
That's your information that you're working with.
The best I can do.
Yeah. And we don't need to roll. Nothing happens.
Oh.
Now, your Kefir doesn't sense relics, which no longer exist either. So you're not 100% sure that it's a different kind of relic. But what you do know is that your Kefir goes nowhere.
Okay. What about the other one?
The book?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in downtown Rio. You don't even need to roll. I guess let's roll for because it's
Wow. Okay.
That's, let's actually try. I just threw that out there because it's but let's roll for this to try it out, shall we? Apologies, by the way, Matthew, if your section is just us doing this.
That's fine. Hey, yes, but, I'm all about finding those relics.
Yeah. So what we have here is you can use this session. You can use this ability once per session, or in addition, once after each descent roll. Like if your sechem is trying to lower, then you can use it again. And every time you come into a contact with someone who has come into a contact with a relic. And also I can do it every time I want. So, okay. But you roll your sechem rating. So roll, I think you need to roll it manually.
Just sechem, right? Okay.
Yeah, and you can add 3 dice from willpower if you want to spend that.
Yeah, I was going to spend willpower. You knew exactly where I was going with this.
Yep. So you've seen the... Okay. Oh, but yeah, sorry. I was not quick enough with my rules clarification there. So we're going to need to re-roll that. Man. Or we'll just say like the last, because there's a dice penalty here because of your information level. So you've seen the book.
Yep. With my own undead eyes.
Yeah, with your own eyes. So it's -4 dice. So we'll just say the last 4 are gone.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 3 successes still.
Yeah, still 3 successes.
Not bad. Not bad.
No, not bad at all.
Okay, so let's see. Success. Through visions, omens, and intuition, the Arisen learns the vessel's current city, Rio, county, or other broad region. He also experiences a vision of one individual with a relationship 2 steps superior. Okay. Right. Okay. To his own. Mummy. Okay. Proxies. No, we're not a proxy. Cool. So you you see a man who is very similar to someone you saw in 1808.
He's still going.
Yes. He's still going. He is reclining in a chair behind a very ostentatious sort of working desk. And the book is in a sort of glass case behind him. And you get the feeling that this is, of course, in Rio. And it's in downtown Rio somewhere, as I said first time before we even rolled. And the office reminds you of something institutional. And you can see other glass cases as well in the room.
Okay.
In
So
your
vision.
I'm gonna,
after I've had this vision, I'm gonna get my cult,
mm-hmm.
polite clicking of my fingers. I'm not a diva. Like,
attend me, servants.
I could get a map of Rio,
Mm-hmm.
and where I think it is, I'm gonna be like, okay, this is the area I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I describe what I saw, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to get me all the details of businesses in this area, especially if it's historic. It's been around for a few hundred years. I've got business.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because what happens when Khufu's not around? I get relic hungry. Like,
like, y'all got any more of them relics? I'm getting low on Sikkim here. Yeah, okay. Well, you task your cult with that. They will spend some time on that. But yeah, you found the book. It was in Rio the whole time.
Clearly, this is the judge's way of telling me I should have got that hundreds of years ago. I should pick it up while I'm in Rio. Should.
Well,
if I can get it. I don't set the world on fire by trying.
Mm-hmm. We'll see about that. Right. Okay. You've tasked that to your cult. What else? You came up with an absolute blank with the golden casket relic.
Yeah.
Even without a roll, I will highlight. It didn't even go off. So.
It's probably gone then. It's probably gone. Probably.
What else? Do you want to go attend the Ocorta Segredo party that you were sort of mandatorily invited to?
I said I would make an appearance.
Yeah.
Air appearance. I was kind of hoping my brother would be back as well, because bring him along for a laugh.
I mean, we can jump to that point in time because this was like the next day.
So
you've spent a whole lot of time with your cult actually, and they are very grateful. The high priestess, Alvarez, is extremely taken with you now that you are lending, well, absolute credibility and concrete weight to the cult. So she's been shadowing you this whole day.
She might not be so taken to us when you come to her and you're like, oh yeah, I should probably tell you that my brother's just like wrecked the urban pacification forces like base.
So if we're on the second day, again, in the interest of time and all that, do you want to have done something drastic during the night, Khufu, vis-a-vis the prison?
No, I think I'll save that because I think I'd rather. I expect you probably want to go into that in like a little bit more detail, so I'll sort of like push that back a bit until we've got like an appropriate amount of time. And to be honest, I'm thinking of seeing whether like Sobek wants in on it as well, because like having like him there with all of his like many predator visions and his his like tweaking of the nipple of fate wouldn't be certainly wouldn't hurt.
Well, I want you to come with this like get together because
I'll tell you what I'll do, deal. I'll come to your Corte Sagredo like function. You help me break into a prison.
Yeah, because making a statement, you see, it's like I will come to your social event, but bringing my brother, so I'm not fully like committed to the whole thought.
So I can't wait to rock up to the guild like conclave of mine, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've turned up. I'm the emissary of like the first prophet of South America. I've also brought my brother with me. Doesn't like alchemists. Oh yeah, and I brought Sackmist with me as well. What's up?
Is my entourage hype man?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go to function with you. Why not?
Please.
Right. So do we do the function on the second day then? If like we're gonna have to compress it a little bit
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
We
of
do it
course.
today, but we can get to that if we want.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. So we'll fast forward, and it's actually not within the sort of usual haunts for Ocorte Segredo. It's a little bit to the country. So you are taken by one of their cultist drivers. Like there's a car sent to you as you arrange your appearance. You're taken to what you have been informed by the driver is a historic plantation, a sugar plantation. It's not in that function anymore. They don't grow sugar anymore. It's more like a historical site these days. So basically they're preserving the structures and they've like renovated it, and it's more about functions now than anything else. Like rented to or maybe controlled with people by people who like organize high society things and all that. Which definitely tracks with the Ocorte Segredo. And yeah, you drive there, and it's in the evening because of course it is. And yeah, from the start, it's very much like you arrive with the car at the end of a fairly long gravel, like very fine gravel, but still like a gravel path. Yeah. Cool.
In case it needs to be said, we'll both be looking absolutely pimptacular when we're walking.
Right. But in what sense is that? Is that like we're business suits or?
Well, obviously I don't know because it doesn't say this exactly, but you know it says when I used my ability to like garb myself or someone else, you can let fate decide. I'm assuming that fate sort of decides like the best thing for like the circumstances you're going into.
Yeah. Well, or whatever fate needs. That's the thing with fate.
So
like, if fate needs you to be clowns and get laughed at, then that's what happens.
That's just what we do.
That's fine. We are loyal followers of the judges. We keep the ancient ways in our shriveled walnut-like hearts. So yeah, I'm gonna do the do and just let fate do what it does.
Yeah. So you are decked in absolute designer like evening wear, whatever that might be. You can give the details, but basically like haute couture for rich assholes is your style choice by fate. Like this doesn't have labels because it was made for purpose.
I like to think that you say it's absolutely like pimped out sort of designer evening wear, but I like to think that they'd be maybe sort of like tweaked for our own personal preferences. So although it's like designer wear, mine will still have something of like the sort of like the funerary sort of like wear about it, and obviously Sobek's will have like a bit of like whatever his sort of like flavour is.
Like a massive book.
I think you come as a book.
Oh no! How about like because I've actually seen this done in some like designer clothes where they actually have the cloth like has sort of like writing on it, so it looks like it's pages of a book or whatever, but it's actually like a print on the cloth. So maybe something like that.
Yeah, maybe we have Sobek, your stuff. Maybe like in sort of like straight portions of your outfit. So let's say like the edges of your like top piece, you have like writing on the very edge, and and like scripture inside the lining. Like you open the jacket and inside there's writing and like tasteful details of scripture here and there. And of course, like the cufflinks and whatever can just be like an entire sentence in Aramite. But yeah, just the most cool evening wear money can buy. And yeah, we watch as you step out of this like gleaming black SUV at the end of a long gravel path, your designer leather probably like crocodile leather for Sobek especially, and your designer footwear strikes the gravel as the camera pans around. There's a tree-lined road along which the SUV continues as you step to the path, and there's torches along the path leading to this absolutely fabulous estate with sort of the sort of I'm blanking out on the like hedge fences as well, like all like cut to shape, so it's very like there's been a lot of garden
One of
work
those
done here.
giant fountains.
Yeah,
they
there's
use as a
like
roundabout.
topiary and stuff.
Yeah. And of course, there's a bunch of statues as well from marble in these like garden areas, and you can see people celebrating here and there in the garden areas as well. People with as ostentatious wear as your own. They have drinks to hand. There's laughter. There's socializing, and as you walk towards the manor itself or the plantation house, it's a tastefully sort of refurbished, renovated, like colonial plantation master house. So like 2-3 story affair with wonderful balconies at the front, like above the main doors. The main doors are absolutely massive and open currently as people sort of come in and out. They come out to smoke and all that. There's waiters going about here and there. And yeah, you sense multiple arisen present here as you walk in. And
anyone who I wouldn't expect to be here.
I suppose no, really. It's do we have all the I mean
Well, obviously I expect you to be there.
yeah, I suppose. So we have, just to refresh our memories once again, because I'm aware there's a lot of people that we talk about. So we have Apep Medes, who is not present currently, as he is fucking dead currently. He has not been re-raised by his cult, the Parliament of Patriots, yet, because that happened not that long ago. But in attendance, we have Bantanath, the artificer of secrets. We have Ib Sheta, the guillotine of innocence.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's great. We have Sarkons, the oubliette of flowers.
Who I haven't seen in modern times until maybe just
not yet, no.
The first.
And we have Nekaka, the flail of eternity. And Nekaka, none of us have seen aside from 1808 when she also arrived from the boat.
Nice to see them all touch base. And I'm hoping that last time they were all together, we had, one of the first merits show up and cause a bit of a stir. So I'm hoping that no one's going to wreck the garden for this event. Partly why I bought my brother as well, because he's good if things go awry.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps me honest as well.
Right. So what's your sort of approach to this? Sobek, that Bantana is going to expect you to not just like turn up and say, okay, yeah, thanks for the truffles, bye.
I'm out. Well, I've not been asked to do any kind of formal function. Just to show up.
Attend.
So I'll basically I will go there and I will work my way through the court.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with the person I've seen the least, so probably be the
Nekaka, the flail of eternity. Then
and work my way up to Bantanath, and obviously introduce them to my brother if they don't recall, just in case they have forgot. Then they know who he is. They're not going to ice him or attempt to. That won't work out so well.
I like the choice of words there, as if fucking Bantanath is going to pull a Glock and be like, brup, brup.
I find your lack of confidence in your court disturbing.
That's an error, Mike. Glock.
Yeah, That's the original OG.
Got God bullets.
Yeah, OG UG, because Duat is the original underground.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
might try and using is it politics in this? Or
Yeah. So
I
your
might try
purpose.
and see if I can. Obviously, I'm sort of hand waving this to an extent because
Mhm.
the things we want to get to.
Yeah.
See if I can intrigue. Can I intrigue? If I can like sort of kind of draw out anything that I didn't pick up when I was talking to Banternath. Like kind of a machinations within the court. Maybe some things
Right.
we haven't had a
Yep.
chance to like sort of encounter yet because obviously these arisen have their own cults and information and
Hmm.
maybe there's something that'll come out of there.
So I guess what we're saying is you want to try and sort of take as good a picture of each of the court members as a
Yeah.
whole, like who they are now today, and also like how are they relating to each other, and also like what are they about.
And their attitude towards me, I suppose. Because
Yeah.
for all I know, one of them may have beef with me. I just don't remember
Yeah,
yet.
it's very possible, like
I think me and
because
Ifsheta are
of memory.
tight. Mendez, if he wasn't tight with me, he owes me one now.
And we also know that like we have never talked to Apep Medes. We have never seen him actually talk to one of you. But what we have seen him do is motivate people to do what he says by breaking a man's leg by standing on it as they were having picnic. So that's our only frame of reference for
He's not
Apep
a man of
Medes.
words, is he, at the
And also,
moment?
of course, we know that he's called the Parliament of Patriots. So there's something there as well.
You see, like obviously I've got my brother with me, so he can sort of get a vibe as well. And
Mm-hmm.
we are there kind of as well on the Red Sparrows docket. So there is
Yeah,
that.
this depending on how you, as characters, how your characters frame this, more or less what you are doing, what you have been doing for a couple of sessions now, is exactly what the Red Sparrow was telling you that she wants you to do, because that's what we agreed to do as a group
I'm sending a
way
message
back.
to Banternath. I am happy to. I'm happy to do a job with the court, and I'm doing what you've asked. But I brought
Mhm.
my brother to show that I am not like I'm not just gonna do what I'm told. You know what I mean? I have
Mhm.
my own thing going on, and he's
Yeah,
an
so
important
Kufu
part.
is your, like when one of the courts starts chatting you up about joining the court, Kufu is your like I'm
Yeah,
with him. So
band's on. Come on, let's
yeah.
go.
Right. So I think because Kufu is there, Kufu, if you want to help in this endeavor, maybe this was discussed as a plan before you came here. I don't know if that's true,
We don't
Sobek,
keep
or
secrets from each other.
yeah,
Nah,
at least as far as we remember.
as far as anyone knows.
So let's have a roll for each one of these wonderful people. So let's start with Nekaka then, and I'll
Okay.
give you a short. Let me pull up the information here as
Obviously, I
well.
will be trying to assist Sobek. I don't really have so
Yeah.
much in the way of politics, but I've got
Yeah.
investigation.
Yeah, that's fine. And actually, because I've entirely forgotten how helping works. I will look that up.
It's also how they react towards you, Corfu, that can be illuminating. Because they might be like they may have history with you, we don't know about yet.
That's fair enough. Like you say, it's worth finding out.
Hmm?
It's worth. Because I have
Cool.
a feeling they don't get on. Just like the Orishas, they don't all get on as well as they appear from the outside.
Yeah.
If there's anything we've learned is that that's definitely true of the mummies in Rio.
Yeah.
Not everyone gets along very well.
I love the fact that like while we're like discussing a plan to like go to like the court of secrets, you're like, yeah, we don't really have secrets from each other. I'm not about that secret life. So are you gonna fitting great at the court of Sagledo?
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole secrets thing, I'm not really fully on board with it.
Yeah, it's just
I'm honest with you.
it's. I think we should rebrand ourselves, to
The court of honesty.
the transparent court,
The court of glass.
open book. Court.
Oh,
Okay. I'm trying to look for how helping works.
I like to imagine when I came back from my mission, get back and Sobek's there, and he's like, I'm like, oh, Sobek, what are you doing? You just sat there drooling. You're like, oh, I've been looking at relics. Gotta get me some of that sweet.
Yeah. You didn't have your soul flayed a little bit, like when I destroyed that relic. They weren't happy about that.
Yeah, but that's because I didn't destroy any relics. That's
See,
why I avoided that.
You let the MCAT thing go a little bit because I was on drugs. You know what I mean? Like like they let that slide a little bit.
That's because you're all hopped up on that sacrament juice.
Somehow I blame him, Chef.
To be fair, legit. He was the one who was like, "Oh, it's fine. I've had it loads of times. It's great.
Yeah.
Let's fucking chin it back." Or in some weird spirit world. Whoopsie.
Whoops. Bad times. Yeah. So apparently, a helping hand is +1. So that's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to confirm that. So you can have +1 on all of your stuff because of Khufu.
Nice. Okay. Because I imagine they'll ask you stuff about the court of the Court of Secreto. I think they'll ply you for information. They'll be like, what's their interest in them?
So they're gonna prime me for information about what? Or are you gonna?
Awfully riches. Sorry.
They don't get much out of me at the minute.
So will this be manipulation, politics, or would it be
That sounds applicable.
intelligence or wits? It's quite open season.
I think manipulation is definitely the one.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Okay, if I get a +1. Ooh, yeah.
Right. So what do we have? We have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, manipulation is definitely the one. Then politics is good. Socialize would be good as well. Subterfuge. I think all of those would be fine.
Persuasion. I suppose I'm not really persuading anyone.
You're not necessarily convincing them of anything.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
I'll go politics.
And of course, you can spend willpower always to get.
I'm gonna hold off for now. I'm gonna hold off on the willpower.
Yeah, because this isn't the important one of the court, right?
This is obvious. Well, no, it's because relics. That's the juice.
That's the juice. So 2 successes, right? So your impression of, and we're just gonna quickly go through these people. Okay, so Nekaka, the Flail of Eternity. So she, much as you see in the picture, looks like a light-skinned Moroccan woman in her late 40s. And she favors conservative clothing, which, by the way, is also something that you'd have noted here. People go about in fairly risque clothing. It's not so much about the sort of glitziness as it is about just straight up like club wear, which is barely clothing.
I am entirely not surprised by this turn of events.
Mm-hmm. Nekaka, though, is dressed in a sort of smart, unassuming, very modest in comparison sort of suit. She is not with the party vibe at all. She is definitely dressed more conservatively than almost everyone else here.
Ironically,
right,
kind of like Kofu. Kind of like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what you know of Nekaka as well, we'll just give you these summaries because we don't have time to have 4 conversations. So Nekaka is, we know from previous times that Nekaka is with the Ma Kep, the Guild of Laborers, the engravers of amulets. And she seems to be very... Like there's a straightforwardness to her that you take away, which is somewhat similar to Khufu, but she's not a Sumenant death priest. So the vibe that you pick up from is that she's serious business only. That's kind of the projection that she puts up, and that's what you take away. She's very much not into this, like, oh, let's strut about with skimpy clothing and like grind up against each other and get drunk as shit. This seems to be kind of like her checking off a box is what you feel like. She's not here to party at all.
Know the feeling.
She's here because this is what we do.
Well, it's good to know there's at least one other person here who isn't a debauched hedonist.
Which might have been somewhat of a surprise to those of us who remember something about Ocorta Segreda from previous. So yeah, and this is the first we actually talked to Nekaka, and yeah, she's like straight down to business, and like I'm fucking not about this ridiculousness. But yeah, so that's Nekaka. Then the next role is for who?
The oubliette of flowers.
Okay, Sakhons. Unfortunately, we can't interview Apep Medes, but we'll have to do it later.
One day.
Yeah. Okay, what you get?
Slightly more juice. 3 successes.
Oh, 3 successes. Now we're talking. I will revise my notes to myself. Exceptional success, 5 or more successes. Okay. Just checking that because I never remember what that is. Okay, so Sakhons, the oubliette of flowers, is in her like regular seeming a delicate young woman with Arab features, and she is wearing the skimpiest of club dance clothing she could possibly wear and still call it clothing. There is no aspect of her corporeal existence that is kind of left to the imagination at all. So a very slight, sort of loose-fitting top with a very short skirt that she has, and some nice shoes, of course, as well to accompany it. But like, yeah, she is very much about look upon me.
See, I imagine we're getting 2 different views. I imagine Kofi was getting the full like Polaroid, high definition vision, whereas obviously my charmed eyes thing, like just protect her modesty every time she turns around. Like
that's how it works. So yeah, so every time she turns at a dangerous angle,
yeah,
there's just another fold of cloth that appears.
Or like a waiter going past with a bottle.
Yeah.
See, having met Sakhons before under different circumstances, I'm aware of how, let's say, she tends not to lean towards that modest side of life.
Would you believe that she was favourable towards the 2 of us last time you saw her? I cannot recall.
She was okay. Like, you didn't talk a lot, but you exchanged pleasantries at Ibsheta's house.
Yeah.
Indeed. From what I know of her from the distant past, she seems to be one who has adapted to always be a patron and an inspiration of the arts.
We ran into her in Rome, if I recall.
Indeed, where she was acting as a sort of muse, whereas when I encountered her in more recent times, she was acting as an agent or a promoter of sorts for modern talents in the field of singing.
I wonder if she took that box.
The theme is consistent.
We're not here for that.
And as she spots you, well, she is familiar with you. You're familiar with her to some extent, Sobek, because you're both scribes, in fact.
Yeah, she's all right.
And as she spots you, she gives you the most knowing of winks possible. And just sort of like a strand of hair gets tucked behind a corner, with only purpose being that it's like, huh, did you notice me? I too am here.
I just kind of lean into my brother, and I'm not sure I want to remember if that has more meaning than it does presently.
Having like noticed that she's flicked her hair back, but like having thought nothing of it since I've been like just looking at her and going, that there is an arisen.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say, I'm not entirely sure what you mean, brother.
Of course you don't. No matter. No matter.
You will also have noted that Nekaka is kind of she's definitely doing the wallflower thing, not out of like shyness or anything. That is absolutely not the case. But she's doing it out of wanting not to be in any kind of central place here currently.
I like opposites of each other almost. They're very...
Sakons is you as you discuss slightly and you exchange pleasantries and you observe her. Everything seems to revolve around her somehow. The mortals here give that away. Not so much the Arisen, but the mortals. You spot some of the patterns here, and people give her like they give her two things most of the time that you can see, either like just lustful looks, or then just like complete obedience and obeisance and deference from a distance or up close if someone comes to like talk to her about something.
This could be her party, in fact. This could be...
I like to think as someone who's like incredibly straightforward to an almost unsubtle point. I like to think at some point as we're talking, I'll just like flat out say, you seem to be having a great effect on the mortals here, Sakons.
Yes, I should like to think so. They are, after all, of my flock, and I tend to them as a shepherd might. Clearly,
I'll smile as she says that. So I'm like, fair play.
Yeah,
That's cool.
She laughs a little bit and like puts a hand on your shoulders, like it's been such a long time.
Indeed, it has. And then I'll exchange pleasantries, Well,
good
that's
to see you once more.
Yeah. Right, and yeah, you definitely pick up on the fact that whatever her position is, like the mortals are just, she is as onto a god to them.
What I'd like to try and do, just to mainly to sort of, because we've chatted Sakons and myself about her sort of like her being a patron of like the popular arts and whatever, and obviously, although I'm not so much in the field of like music, but I am sort of dedicated to like preserving things myself. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and blag, if I may, using my occult. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm effectively going to at some point do like a small bit of singing, but I'm trying to blag occult rather than expression. Partly because I don't have any expression, and also because what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to use my my superstition speciality. So it's not going to be like a pop song or something like that. It's going to be some sort of like funeral song or some sort of like funeral, sort of mournful, sort of dirge like.
Yeah.
And because that's my vibe. So I'll do a little bit of singing at one point, mainly because I'm interested in how she'll react, because she's a patron of like the popular arts, so a bit more traditional, a bit more old-fashioned, a bit more mournful. I'm interested to see how she reacts.
Right. Let's have a roll. Let's see how.
Let's do it, man.
How the priests.
I would like to propose presence occult, if I may.
That sounds good for a funeral. Either dirge or like a protective song.
Yeah. Okay. And do you know what? I'll spend a willpower on it to get some extra dice. It's 3 extra dice, isn't it?
3, yeah.
Okay, cool. Boop. Only the 1 success out of all that.
9 dice.
it's still 1 success. I'll take it. Oh, actually, I should have got an extra dice as well, because I've got a speciality.
Yeah.
One
more. 10 dice. 10
dice. Still only 1 success. Yep. But it's a success.
Yeah, it's a success. So, Yeah, I think afterwards, Sakon's comments that like finds you again and says, well, "I wasn't aware that we had uh, artists such as these on for tonight. I am quite delighted. Now, is there a possibility at all for a perhaps a concert in a more private manner? Or was this a one-time thing?"
My my interests lie in the field of preserving things from the past. Many societies have preserved things in a different manner, whether through oral traditions, songs, carvings, etc. If you wish to hear more of the funeral songs of bygone societies, I'm sure I can arrange to relay some of them to you at a later time.
Splendid, truly. And I think, unless there's more you want to do with Stockholms, we might jump to the next one.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Who's on?
Mendez is not here.
No.
Let's go to my boy Ibsheta.
Yeah.
He must be so happy to see me again. So happy. I'll do a roll. I think you're still helping me, Kofu, while we go through the thing. Yeah. Whew, okay. Okay. He is a slippery fox.
Well, you don't find anything more about him, but that's because you find him in like you do, because again we're compressing this, so it's not just you walking around the like one ballroom. This is a whole big building, and there's other buildings on the property as well. You find him in a separate building. It's a smaller one, maybe for originally like the staff or something like that. It's like a staff's quarters, and you find him there, and you don't find anything additional about him because he's alone, so you can't measure the connections. And also he's busy because there's what seems to be a group, a pair of two. Again, you've not seen a person who doesn't look like filthy rich here. There's what seems to be like maybe a couple, like husband and wife, with him there. They're in this sort of cleared space, and they're standing by the door. And in the middle of the room is this, I don't actually know the correct word for it, but it's basically a long trough for having a fire. So like you would have a container of stone for your fire or fireplace, this is a long form trough-like sort of container for basically the embers after a fire, such as you would use to like heat up a large space. So it's built into the floor. It's a small strip of this. Let's say it's like, it's not really small. I keep saying small, but it's meant to warm a large place by itself, and it's in the middle of the room. It's like 5 meters long, and it's full of like, there's been coal that has been prepared, and now it's all like smoldering embers. The thing by the door, you have Ibsheta, you have mom, you have dad, you have what seems to be little sister, and you come upon them just as little brother is standing on a stool at the far end of this bed of coals, burning embers, and looking absolutely terrified. And Ibsheta is the only immortal in the room, right? These are mortal.
So far, so Ibsheta, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The implication seems to be brother's gonna take a little stroll across the burning embers here in a moment, and Ibsheta turns around as you end up there, like taking a peek, like, oh, I sack him over here. So is he here? And you like look in the door, and he turns like, ah, Sobek, wonderful. You've entered just in time. We're engaged in some light activity, and he like pushes the door open so that you can get in if you want. But yeah, you can see that he's basically set this up like the family is going to watch the kid go across some coals here in just a moment. 5 meters of coals, in fact. He doesn't have shoes or socks on.
It looks like you have kept yourself busy at these events.
There's no stopping. No, I believe there is even a song about this from, I forget the exact artist, but no, there's for one such as us, we need to keep
the road
lively.
goes ever onward.
Mm.
It's good to see you.
And most importantly, do what enlivens you. That's what I say. Was there something I could help you with, Sobek? Kufu, no. I see you there as well. Welcome. Hopefully you're enjoying the amenities. The parents, by the way, and little sister, not really so intently into whatever this is. But they're staying quiet by Ibsheta's side.
The evening has been pleasant thus far, thank you. We've just been talking with Sakons.
Yeah, careful with that one. She's a devious one.
In what way?
Well, look at her.
I have done.
Well, there you have it.
I look confused.
She has a lot to take in at once. But an important part of the court, of course.
Of course.
It's nice to see everybody together. Apart from Mendez, of course. Hopefully he will...
Hopefully the tides of Duat will be light on him. But it is not for us to dwell on such things. This is an event for us to bind ourselves together in common purpose, such as is our duty.
Our purpose.
That as well.
And thanks again for your help with a particular business.
There's no need, for I live to assist. And he puts an arm around Dad. Dad's not really happy about that help that he's getting right now.
Yep.
Kid at the other end of the bed of coals is about to get off the stool that he was on, because apparently you have disrupted the proceedings, and
at this
he's
point,
losing nerve.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I have I've got like a cult 3, and I've got like a speciality in superstitions. Now,
yep.
I'm well aware there's lots of societies that in the real world do walk across coals, and I know out of character there's like a method for doing it that results in less harm to the participant. If I can recall such in character, I'm again being straightforward and like no nonsense. And I don't have the right to interfere with what Ibshet is doing. So what I'm going to do is like I'll just say to the child who's getting ready to do it, keep your eyes straight ahead of you and walk swiftly. Do not lose your footing.
Ibsheta raises an eyebrow and glances at the boy, looks to Dad, and he's sort of like, he ponders a little bit, like sucks on his lips a little bit in thought, and he squeezes Dad's shoulder with his arm around him, as leans over and whispers, not really super secretively, but like just lowers his voice a little bit. Find me later. And then like pushes him him forward. Dad and mom get little sister, and they go and fetch little brother as well, and they depart. Ibsheta turns to you and says, "Well, that was rather unsportsmanlike. I feel it's something that I really want to put out in the world. That you have to earn the thing that you're trying to get. Now, you don't need to concern yourself with them. They'll finish their business otherwise. Maybe, Khufu, let's not do that again."
My apologies. I simply wish to ensure that the young man could efficiently accomplish his task.
Right. Well, let's not dwell on it. What's one misunderstanding between friends, huh? And he's trying to put his hand around both of your shoulders.
I will not resist.
What?
I said I will not resist.
Yeah, I wanted to check, because if you said I will resist, then we're gonna.
Yeah, put so man, you'd be like, get out of it.
Yeah, it's like away with you. He sort of like leans in to you and says, "Now, I know an absolutely delectable piece of meat. I need to show you." And he's starting to lead you back into the manor house.
That's fine. I'll tag along for whatever ridiculous debauchery Ibsheta's got planned.
Yeah.
Mainly out of politeness.
He's a curious fellow. He is
I believe he's what they called in ancient Rome the Bellendimus Maximus.
Yeah. Yeah. You remember him from Rome, and it's exact match. No. So he leads you back to the manor house, but he is distracted by a phone call.
Interesting.
But he tells you that there's, like, he was going to show you a delectable piece of meat, but that will have to wait. But we'll get to it. But he needs to talk. It's very important. So he's going to leave you to go attend to his affairs, which are no doubt going to be fully above board and nice.
If ever there was an Arisen that's in like far more chords than you realize, that is Ibsheta.
Yep. So you rolled 0, so you didn't get exactly what you wanted, but you got Ibsheta instead.
I got a dose of Ibsheta in his debauchery, 100%.
Mm-hmm. You only think yourself lucky you weren't awake during the Copacabana incident. You'd have seen a lot more of Ibsheta then.
Yep. Okay, so Ibsheta leaves, and everyone is content for that.
That's good. That was good. I suppose that leaves Bantanath.
Yeah, Bantanath is left.
And that would conclude the Arisen. Is there anything else here? Like anything else?
Also, I feel like I need to clarify, because I just realized I forgot. Of course, we're not talking incredible, like, we're not talking very young children. It's like teens, kind of. Sorry, I didn't mention that, and I meant to, but I forgot, because I expected you to get some successes here, and that came out of the Ibsheta things that we have on hold in case we need Ibsheta. But yeah.
The Ibsheta files. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do Bantanath then, as I will engage her last in conversation.
Okay, let's go.
Oof.
Oh boy.
I've been spending a lot of time with her. See, it's paid off. I'm even starting to suspect that she actually likes me on a like an individual basis.
So Bantanath,
Playing hard to get, you see.
when you find her,
Not that from Kofu.
she is dressed up in what could accurately be described as a very high quality, intricate leather and latex, tasteful dominatrix suit.
Ooh.
For
I'll be honest,
discerning.
that's not the way I was expecting it to go, but
yeah. So she was dressed more or less like Nekaka is currently here, when you met her at the Academy of Letters.
Of course, if Sobek requires some like assistance to like roll his tongue back into his face, I'll provide him with a +1 dice for that.
Right, so
the party you're supposed to stay.
Yeah, she regards you, nods approvingly, and says, Sobek, I am glad you could join us, and you've brought your brother as well. We are delighted.
Sophie is naturally, happy to meet the court once more. Is always good to catch up and, present himself here. We're obviously on all good terms here, and everybody is of a similar mind.
But of course, and we of course welcome you. If you want refreshments, they are available. There are various activities for the evening.
Yes, I have already moved into Ibshedder already.
Was he in the servants' quarters by chance?
The kitchens, I believe.
Right. And you can sense that there's some, you can't quite put your finger on it, but there's something there. When she's thinking about Ibsheta, there's something firing off in her brain, which is kind of incongruous. It's not that she's like, oh, I'm gonna get that guy. It's more like slight confusion, maybe. You're not too sure. It's weird. Like basically her the needle jumps on her vinyl player for a bit there.
Oh, I feel like I'm lacking context at this stage, but
there's she says, oh, he's probably hounding down that family.
Yes, I think he had some test for them. I paid not much mind to him. My brother, meanwhile, was curious. I was at that minute to thank him for his help.
Yes, his methods do tend to revolve around, well, did you say test, Matthew?
I did say test, yeah.
So his method does revolve quite a lot around I suppose tests of character. Some would call them charitably. Others might call them something else. For your purposes, though, it relies on not being forced as such. There's something he derives from it, I believe.
He is very methodical in his work. I will give him that.
A business transaction of another kind, I suppose. And there's a slightly older man who like has an air of gravitas and sort of dignity about him, approaches Bantanath from the side and kind of leans in and like whispers to her, it's like, "Oh, Scarlet Queen, we are almost prepared with the ritual." And she turns around as quickly as you've seen any Arisen ever move, and she just like gets him across the jaw there, and like follows along with the motion. He doesn't fall to the ground at all because he picks him up, and she carries him to I suppose to the entrance of a different room, and just sort of like slams him to the side of the door, and just leaves him there. He's kind of woozy, and sort of like drooling a bit of blood as he's trying to gather his wits. And Bantanath walks back, and
Have I heard that title before?
no. Well, make me a wits roll. Just straight wits.
Just wit on its own.
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that. I mean, I can. Yeah, success.
Did you?
Yeah, I got a single success.
Okay, it's been so slow. Okay, so one success. You recall her being called that previously as well by cultists.
Huh. By her own cultists.
With the Ocorte Segredo, it's a little interesting to try and figure that out because they have, as we established previously, I think we talked about that previously, they have a cult in common.
Yeah, like
but they have their own cults as well.
Yeah, they have like an organizational one as well.
But the one that they have in common is very old. We saw some of these people land in Rio in the last session, and they are called Os Toreros, the bullfighters, and they are the sort who are, let's see, they are rich. We have nobles. We have people of means, and yeah, that's sort of your framework for Os Toreros, which is to your understanding, like fairly sizable and influential cult that the Corte Segredo has.
When she knocks him out and like sort of takes him away, I'll turn to Cuffy as she's doing that. She's distracted. I'll just kind of just say, "Artificer of secrets, indeed."
Give me both of you can make me a wits. Oh, let me. Yeah, like wits, subterfuge, wits, socialize, wits, empathy, like any one of those. Oh, both of you got 2. Nice.
Yeah.
There's a notable shift in in her demeanor now that she like strides back from having
towards us.
Yeah, towards you. She walks back and she says, "My apologies for that interruption. There's some people who just never learn."
I understand. Is being I just kind of smile. Is there anything I can assist you with if this is
well, now that you mention it, I should like for you to help me with one of the events for tonight.
Okay. Does this require my personal attention, or is my brother?
A slight participation from you, of course, in your own personality, and then, well, I suppose if your brother is much like Abe Shetta, he could watch.
I will leave that up to him. He's his own man. But I'm happy. I said I would attend, and if there's something you need me to help with, I'm more than
Wonderful.
happy to do so.
So I think because we've actually almost had the 4 conversations that I sort of said that we didn't have time for, and it's been a while. So I propose that we end it on a scene with Bantanov holding this event. So it's an event whereby it's one of the lower levels of the building. There's people dressed in long black and red ritual robes, and they've got goblets of rich wine, which they imbibe of quite freely. And your role appears to be like you're going to kick off a ritual, assisting Bantanath in doing so. And then your part is done, and you can observe if you like. There's bowls of what looks like incense, but smells like opium, positioned on a small dais on which Bantanath is going to be standing on, and you as well, flanking her. And there is a headgear piece which is positioned on the dais, which is a bull head that you can put on, like a sculpted, like bronze bull head.
Makes sense with the name of the cult. Yeah.
Helmet.
Okay.
And it's there at the dais, and Bantanath takes her spot on the dais, motions for you to join her on her left side, and the cultists sort of line up. Apparently, there's some kind of layout which they follow, like they take their positions there. You note that some of these people don't have robes; they're in fact entirely naked. And
it happens, I guess. This is part of the ritual.
Yeah. Bantanath intones in some language that you don't speak. She says something.
So it's not Eremite.
It's not Eremite. It's not any language that either of you speak. She says something, and the cultists respond like it's a clear exchange of like her saying basically "Amen," and then everyone responds like "Amen." She says in Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, that we have gathered here today once again during the time of the carnival. And as we, the chosen, know more than any other on this cursed earth, we know that the carnival is originally a festival of the flesh. You hear like cheering from the cultists. People like drown themselves in the wine that they have. And we are here to sanctify the flesh and take from it what we desire. Praise Moloch. And the cult responds, Moloch. And she takes the headgear piece and speaks again in some language. There's multiple phrases now that you don't understand. And she closes her eyes, and one of the cultists, you don't quite understand, like, was this pre-prepared or something, but it seems like an entirely random person from like the second to last row from the left.
Is all of the secret court here as well?
No, it's just Bantanath doing this.
No, I mean, like in the ritual itself, is there other court members? No. Oh, okay.
No, it's just Bantanath and you and Kufu if you want to be there as well.
Yeah, you sit in the background and opposite.
He's at the door and it's like
with good mood lighting. You know,
I'll probably smirk a bit when she's like giving it the whole praise Moloch.
She's speaking this litany, closes her eyes, holds up the bull head, and seemingly a random person from the crowd, a naked man, walks up, seemingly in like a state of ecstasy, walks up and speaks something in this language, presumably that Bantanath is using, and he has a knife in his hand, and he like slices something into his chest, not very deeply, but just enough to like actually draw up the blood. And it seems to be maybe a letter or something, or you don't know, but it might be language, it might not. It might just be a symbol. And he licks the blood from the blade and sets it, like drops it to the ground, and Bantanath opens her eyes and lowers the headgear, the bull head, on this man's head, who then turns to the surrounding cult and continues speaking in what to you might just as well be languages, in tongues, sorry. And some of the cultists respond every now and then, and he ends his babbling with a great bellow, like a chesty shout of flesh for Moloch, souls for Moloch,
right,
yeah. And then everyone kind of like loses it, as in like in wild abandon, just like if they have wine, they like try and get it all down as they go. Like glasses get dropped, people tear off each other's robes, they start having a go at it on the floor. There's people indulging in a very aggressive manner here after the bull-headed man sort of finishes his exhortations, and then he seems to just like walk around as this scene of carnality and worldliness like explodes around you. And Bantanath watches this from the dais.
Does she seem pleased?
Yes. And she turns to you, Sabek, and she says, one more thing, and like leans in close, is about to put her hands around you.
I freeze for a moment and then I miss it.
Right. So she's going to kiss you on the mouth, unless you like just.
I don't have a problem with it.
Get away from it.
That's what 4 successes get you. In will the darkness.
Good times.
Kind of funny that my brother's watching in the room.
Yep.
Because I imagine he's like stood impassively.
We're gonna have words when we get home.
Yeah. You don't do this to your guildmaster?
Yeah. Do you have a different relationship to your guildmaster? Because
I talked about weighty matters of philosophy and like urban preservation with my guildmaster, rather than just going straight to the like Tonkocking him to death.
I'll be honest, this is not how I expected the Square ritual to go. However, you know, she's privy to secrets I am not, I suppose.
Yeah, she is in fact the artificer of secrets.
The artificer, yeah.
Yeah. So she kisses you on the mouth. It's not a very long or complicated affair. She like embraces you, kisses you on the mouth.
I respond in kind.
And she gives you a smile and a smirk, and then says, "Thank you very much for your aid, Sabek."
Always a pleasure.
We are pleased, of course.
I imagine when Sobek walks out, he's going to be like,
Call
See,
me on this, I guess.
yeah,
The device.
yeah.
Yeah, we are pleased, and I dearly hope, Sabek, that as we progress with your learning, your utterances, that you would consider. And this, by the way, because she's lowering her voice, she's trying to talk shop now,
Yeah.
and there's people.
Oh, yeah, it's all happening.
It's fucking free love and drugs and wine. She's trying to talk shop, and says, "You are learning, and I am happy to instruct you, as is my place
You are a good teacher.
as Kenbet. Hopefully, as you have mingled here today, aside from Ibsheta, put him to the side if you can. I'm aware that you, and probably your brother as well, you might not appreciate him for what he is. If possible, never mind him. But it would be a shame, I think, if you would walk away from this evening, Sobek, and I do not wish that you leave yet, though you go as you please. I would hope that you walk away from this evening with an idea of what we could achieve. Look who is present and who they are and what they can do, most importantly. Look at what we could achieve, Sobek, is what I truly ask of you when I asked you to come to this place tonight.
That is always at the forefront of my thinking. What could be done?
There are interpersonal relationships which have been in trouble for many uncounted eons, but we are positioned for greatness, and I would lift you up along with me and the court. And I hope that you will accept eventually, even if it's not today.
It may not be today, but I will consider the words, of course.
Right. Well, our business is concluded, so shall we adjourn? They have business to attend to, and she glances across the room.
I don't follow her gaze because I can hear.
Yeah, you can. You know what's going on.
I just like all this frantic movement throughout the room. You know, stuff's happening, and then there's just in this one darkened corner.
It's human flesh.
Yeah.
Wine spilled everywhere. Strong, good wine. Opium. And blood as well. So that's the sort of landscape that we're in now.
I will depart with a glance, I suppose, at that massive bullhead as we leave.
Yeah, the bloody man who cut himself, who's just like seemingly wandering around in a trance now across this like landscape of human bodies.
If that was Sekhem that was flying around there, or something else. Maybe just drugs.
Probably drugs. Yeah. Right, so you are freed from your duties.
I shall return to the party and continue to talk with a few of the members, see anything interesting, and then when it's reasonable amount of time has passed, I will, with my brother, unless he wants to stay for longer, we'll depart.
Yeah, Khufu probably doesn't have a lot to spelunk here. Right, so shall we depart?
Indeed.
Right. So we've had our taste of the carnival, which is not at all about the Rio Carnival. This Carnivale is very different.
It
But
was
we're
different. It wasn't. It was.
Tell you what, I best not have the secret court like sassing the Orishas for like co-opting mortal beliefs when they're all like, praise to Moloch.
I don't know what you mean.
So you get a drive back to the city, which is where you meet the actual carnival of real people. um, Everything's packed. It's very slow driving to where you are because you're on the coast. You need to go through the city to get where you are, and it's wonderful. Regardless of whatever you might think about what the Secret Court and their activities there that we just witnessed, the mortals of Rio generate something that is sort of tangible almost to you. You feel currents. There's a charge to everything now that the celebrations have started. There's dancing everywhere. People enjoying partying throughout the night. Rio kind of doesn't sleep, I guess, at all during this period of time because it's daytime, nighttime. Every time it's enjoying the celebrations of the carnival. A lot of as we discussed, the samba schools have their floats that they take in parades around town to a place, which I guess our sort of montage ending here is our camera follows one of these floats to the end point of the route for them, and it is a place that we have on the map. Actually, I will ping it now.
Okay.
So if we look at the sort of central area of Rio near RS Global, here.
Oh, right near the center. Yeah.
So there is a place called the Sambadrome in Rio, which is a large venue for this kind of thing, specifically constructed to be used in celebrations such as this. It's like a long, like it's not really a stadium as such, but it has like seating on either side, and then there's a parade ground. If you want to Google that, it's Sambadrome. You can take a look, but it's basically a parade ground with seating on either side for the floats to go down. And at the end, where the floats stop their parade, is a place which has a fairly heavy meaning if you choose to attach it to the name, because it's called Apotheosis Square. And Apotheosis is one of the sort of, I suppose, heresies of arisen existence, which we will probably delve into at a later point in time. But yeah, we follow the Samba Carnival to the end point and roll credits there as the mortals celebrate also. Yeah, so that's our section.
Excellent.
It ran way longer than I intended, but
thank you for running it. I very much enjoyed
Thank
it.
you very much.
Right, I shall end the stream here.
Yep.